The Jehovah's Witnesses finally replied to their reversal in their appeal with Norway. They have been in hot water with the Norwegian government because the Norwegian government decided to remove their governmental status. I've made a whole bunch of videos about this. This is in a nutshell. They decided to remove their governmental status, and they decided to do that based on their practice of shunning, not just on shunning, but on shunning minors, right? They were like, actually, you cannot be a religious entity getting $2.5 million just because you are existing, while also shunning children and making children be in a less safe place. So the state sued against them, the state won, but then the Jehovah's Witnesses appealed that, then they won the appeal, which now leaves it open for the Supreme Court, which is what's going to happen, like almost definitely, right? In court, there's nothing a sure thing, but according to everything that we've seen, this is exactly the kind of case for the Supreme Court. A judge found that they did violate the law, then the appeal found that it doesn't violate the law. It's perfect for the Supreme Court. This is literally what the Supreme Court is for. That didn't stop the Jehovah's Witnesses from calling it a win and then just making a news article in their website about how this is an amazing win and how this could have only happened because of Jehovah. So let's watch that right now because there's a lot of interesting things. I'm going to read it to you. Court of Appeal unanimously overturns unconstitutional ruling in Norway. On March 14th, 2025, Borgarden Court of Appeal unanimously overturned the Oslo District Court's decision to revoke the legal registration of Jehovah's Witnesses in Norway. The Borgarden Court of Appeal also awarded our brothers 8,500,000 kroner, or a little over $800,000, in compensation for legal costs incurred during both trials. Now, as far as I know, the Court of Appeal does award this money, but they're like, yeah, that is if nothing happens in the Supreme Court, and as we know, this is going to the Supreme Court, so they're not going to get anything. Not this money, not their money from funds that they get for being a religion in Norway, nor even their religious registration back until we hear back from the Supreme Court. Let's keep reading. In 2002, the country governor of Oslo and Viken revoked our registration, thereby blocking us from receiving state subsidies that more than 700 registered religious communities in Norway benefit from. I love that whenever it's about getting money, they're like, we are pretty much like every other religion. They'll single us out, but when it's about literally anything else, they're like, yeah, no, we are unique. We're not even a religion. The state based its decision on the assertion that we should change our scriptural practice of removing unrepentant wrongdoers from the congregation. After the Oslo District Court upheld the government decision in March 2024, Jehovah's Witnesses in Norway appealed. The latest decision overturns the lower court's unconstitutional rulings. I love how they use a lot of loaded language even when they're writing these news. Unconstitutional rulings. Oh, finally. This is about just our scriptural practice. Or scriptural practice, guys, of removing unrepentant wrongdoers, even if they're minor, even though there's literally no scriptural precedent for removing and shunning minors, because there's not even a biblical precedent for baptizing minors. I left out the most important part. The state may still appeal this decision to the country's Supreme Court. This is telling, and as I hope that you realize, this is because it's pretty much impossible that a judge won't look into this, right? That the Supreme Court won't be looking into this, because this is pretty much a case for the Supreme Court. And in this article, the Jehovah's Witnesses even show they may still appeal, that this isn't even fully won. And I thought, oh, is this like journalistic integrity? But I don't think it's journalistic integrity. I think that it is so sure that this is going to go to the Supreme Court that they're even talking about this in this puff piece, talking about like how this is only about Jehovah and how this is like a big win or whatever. They're talking about this because they know that this is going to go to the Supreme Court. So when the Jehovah's Witnesses look it up, they can see it and they can be like, oh yeah, they did mention that it was going to go to the Supreme Court. But anyway, it does show more journalistic integrity at least, or at least more accuracy than what Lloyd and Wally reported, being like, yeah, no, this is basically over. It's all over. We lost, but hey, we won because the real win are the friends we made along the way. No, it's not over. Let's keep reading. During the appeal process, a panel of 3 judges thoroughly examined our religious practices and Bible-based teachings. That's not what happened. I'm gonna make a video about it, but that's not what happened. Like they just presented how they changed their scriptural practice, basically, and therefore how they shouldn't deserve these restrictions. In direct contradiction to the state claims, the Court of Appeal determined that limiting contact with an unrepentant wrongdoer who has been removed from the congregation is not a violation of his rights. In situations where an unrepentant baptized this minor is removed from the congregation, the court ruled that it does not constitute psychological violence. They ruled that with reserves. They didn't rule that just because, right? They ruled that with reserves, and that's why it's going to the Supreme Court. The court concluded that Jehovah's Witnesses have been fully vindicated in that the decisions to deny grants and registrations are invalid. And then there's people who fought for trans children. We are pleased by the Court of Appeals decision in Norway, for which we give all thanks and praise to Jehovah. Now, something very interesting over here, because it basically says that a panel of 3 judges checked out the practices of Jehovah's Witnesses, and then it actually determined, in contradiction to the state claims, that shunning an unrepentant wrongdoer, like shunning someone who you decide you need to shun, is not a violation of their rights. That wants to give the same vibe that Tony Morris wanted to give when he gave this famous update precisely on Norway. Let's just check this out a little bit.
We have another exciting update regarding freedom of worship. As Jesus foretold at Matthew 10:22, we face much opposition. Jesus said, "And you will be hated by all people on account of my name." To assist Jehovah's people, we have recently established the Freedom of Worship Office at the Central Europe branch.
Yeah. So he just talks about the Norwegian
work has been
things.
established throughout Europe for many years. So is this really needed?
Is this really needed?
Yes, it is. For example, recently the government of Norway decided that Jehovah's Witnesses would no longer receive certain state benefits that are provided to all registered religions. Here to explain more about this.
All registered religions. We're like every religion, you guys. We're like every religion. They're signaling us out. We're just like every religion.
Is Brother Jürgen Pedersen.
And then Tony Morris said this famous words.
The authorities in Norway have threatened to remove our legal registration because of our scriptural beliefs and practices regarding disfellowshipping. In the future, various governments will challenge our freedom of worship. They may pressure us to change our scriptural beliefs, but we're certainly not going to do that.
We are certainly not going to do that. Now, is that what the Jehovah's Witnesses argued? Is that what the court checked? Is that what the Jehovah's Witnesses win is about in the appeal? No, it's not. Let's go to the state's opening arguments in the Jehovah's Witness appeal in Norway in day 2. I'm reading from avoidjw.org. As far as I know, they had like the person right there reporting it. They basically tried to show this clip again. It's the clip that they removed. When the state tried to talk about it, the defense, led by attorney Anders Stray Risdal, I'm just going to call him Risdal as I called him last time, seemed visibly irritated and exclaimed that this video had been removed from the organization's site and was no longer relevant. No longer relevant, you guys. We already removed it. We have moved away from our practices. And that was basically what they argued. They argued that the term removed from the congregation is now used instead of excluded, he says, with the belief that individuals who no longer wish to be part of the congregation can simply announce their decision. Serious incidents considered rare causes for removal, and the practice of disfellowshipping is seen as rare, particularly for minors. Why? Because they changed their scriptural practices already. As you remember, Mark Sanderson came in last year in governing body update. What's his number? I'll put the video over here when I covered it. In that video, in that governing body update, he basically comes in and say, we are no longer going to be removing minors as quickly. We reserve the right to remove minors and shun them if we want, but they won't just be in a judicial committee like just one day and then disfellowship the next day and then they just have 1 week of appeal. No. First of all, we're not going to call it a judicial committee anymore. We're just going to call it like elders meeting or something like that. We're not going to call it disfellowshipping anymore. We're simply going to call it removal because we decided disfellowshipping sounds too bad. And third, we are not going to remove minors as quickly. We are going to take our time. Like the judicial committee, I'm sorry, the elder body will just meet with the guy, with the young person, and, they'll try to get them to repent for like a few meetings. And then, then if they don't want, then we'll shun. Like we'll still reserve the right of shunning, but it's a rebranding. No longer is this fellowshipping a thing. Now it's removal, and removal is far better because we changed it is, oh my God, it is so nice that now we are able to say hello to people in the Kingdom Hall because we don't shun them anymore because we changed it cosmetically.
Hi, so good to see you here. Thank you.
While we wouldn't have an extended conversation or socialize with such a person, we do not need to ignore him completely.
I believe that's why Tony Morris got kicked out. They wanted to change this, tweak this just enough to appease Norway. Not just Norway, but, future governments that may want to take a look at them, right? Let's just keep reading what he said. He compared their exclusion practice to social distancing. Guys, it's like COVID. Remember COVID? You did social distancing, guys. It's like they have a disease and they're gonna kill you. It's just social distancing from individuals who were seen as unrepentant or engaged in serious sin. This is based on biblical teachings about not associating with individuals who continue in sinful behavior. However, individuals who become inactive or who drift away are not socially avoided, and family ties are not typically broken. Typically. I love that they're typically, it's up to the parent if they decide that they should do what we told them to do for their benefit of their child and shun them and cut family ties. He notes that the practice of removal from the congregation has been adjusted over time. Remember Tony Morris just now being like, we're not going to change our scriptural beliefs? The practice of removal from the congregation has been adjusted over time. While some people may choose to be removed due to personal struggles or a desire to stop living a double life, oh my God. The community does not actively avoid individuals who become inactive or who face difficulties. This is a lie. I am inactive, right? I am inactive, and I am currently being shunned by the people in the congregation who know that I am inactive. And let's just read this final bit. Again, this was the same person, but then he was cross-examined by the state the next day. And this is what happened. According to his testimony, disfellowship individuals, particularly apostates who actively oppose or try to persuade others away from the faith, lose both spiritual and social fellowship within the congregation. State as regarding contact with a person who have been removed from the congregation, what does this adjustment entail? Now, we can also do more to reach out a helping hand. For example, a mother and a father might call and say, we have been thinking about you. You're welcome at the meeting. But what about the apostates? Will someone fall into the fallen away category if they join another religious community? No, not necessarily. A fallen person is someone who continuously tries to persuade others. So here they're basically saying, look, you remember the video where the parents were forced to shun her daughter, like kick her out of the home and then shun her for 15 years. Well, now they would be able to call them as long as it's to invite them to the meeting. She wouldn't be completely shunned unless she was like, hey, this is a cult, or you shouldn't obey the governing body. Like, it's not about that. We've changed it. This goes completely against what they're trying to present here. And this big, amazing news of how they unanimously overturned unconstitutional ruling in Norway. So I just wanted to go through that really quick because that's just the way that they're reporting about Norway. We kind of called it, but it does give us a little bit of insight into why they did the things that they did in Norway, like the way that they did it. This is my theory. This is my working theory based on the information that we have, right? They get into issues with Norway first, and they realize that they're going to keep getting into issues as long as they try to defend disfellowshipping and shunning minors, right? So they're like, we need to change it a little bit. We need to tweak it a little bit to appease the Norwegian government. But at the very least, Tony Morris was not into it. So Tony Morris is like, F you, I'm not gonna do it. What are you gonna do? And Tony Morris gets kicked out. They put a couple more people into the governing body who agree with this decision, and then they kick out Tony Morris, and now there's no dissenters, right? So they change it with the governing body update. They decide, hey, we're no longer disfellowshipping minors as quickly. We will still disfellowship them if we really, really, really want to, because what are you gonna do? Like, what, say that it's illegal? Don't say that. Don't sue us. And then that change was not only for Norway, but to invalidate witnesses, because now the Norwegian state does not have witnesses who have been in this new form of disfellowshipping called removal, right? They don't have new members who have been through that new process. See their quotations. So the state cannot be like, no, it's still the same. They can, because it's still the same, right? But they have a little bit of more plausibility, because everyone that the state could have gathered were people that were disfellowshipped under the old rules. The state did not gather even a single person that was removed from the congregation after this, because, it was just a few months. Like, You don't have enough time to kick out someone from the congregation and then wait for them to become an ex-Jehovah's Witness and then allow them to become involved and then realize that all of this is going on. It takes years for some people to go through that. So I think this is what the Jehovah's Witnesses are trying to do. They changed the rules, they tweaked the rules, and they made those tweaks look gigantic to the Court of Appeals and be like, no, this is a completely new thing. We got rid of this fellowshipping and everything. But in this article right here, you can see right here that the Jehovah's Witnesses internally are saying this is the same, by the way. They decided that our scriptural beliefs did not need to change whatsoever. They're minimizing the rebranding of this fellowshipping for members while maximizing it for the court, just so they can lie to the court, basically. This is how they're lying, not just to the court, but to their members. Anyway, that was it for the Norwegian court. I hope you guys had an amazing time. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the bell button.